guys, today I wanted to do another story time, ASMR story time video, and what I wanted to do today was talk about July 1st, 1863, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The first day of the Battle of Gettysburg. And the battle that would decide the fate of everything else that would happen at Gettysburg, and quite possibly the rest of the Civil War. And so the lead into this battle, General Lee is head of the Northern Virginia Confederate Army. And he has just had a great victory in Chancellorsville, where he was outnumbered, and he split his forces, and he flanked the Union Army, and won Chancellorsville. But now, he's on the edge of Gettysburg, and he's running out of food, and he knows he needs a northern victory, because there's an election coming up. And the Northerners, the Union, the people, they're getting tired of the war, and he believes that if he can have a victory in the North, and maybe show the Northern people that the battle's closer to home, that they might not win it, they might turn against the Union armies and vote to end the war. So he thinks Northern victory can do it. So he's marching into the North. And he's left the Army of the Potomac. The Union Army is chasing him up out of the South. But he thinks they're days behind him. He doesn't realize he sits on Gettysburg preparing to get supplies. Doesn't realize the Northern Army is so close. Because he has a cavalry unit led by a man named Jeb Stuart. And what Jeb Stuart's doing is his job is to scout and let General Lee know where the Union Army is. The problem is Jeb Stuart, during his ride, he's wound up on the far side of the Union Army. And he can't get back across. And he sent messengers, but the messengers can't get through the Union Army. 2 of them get captured, and 1 goes around, but by the time he gets around, it's too late. So, General Lee is blind to the fact that the Army of the Potomac is moving in on him. And he doesn't want a battle in Gettysburg. What he doesn't know is he's going to get one. So, first day, July 1st, 1863. It's probably one of the only times in the Civil War where the South will be fighting from the North down, and the North will be fighting from the South up, because the North is chasing the South into the North. And I want to draw a map just showing kind of the setup where there's a line of hills kind of here, and General Lee is over here, Gettysburg is over here, and I hope with my camera this doesn't end up backwards. So, and it is going to end up backwards, but so you're looking at this. This is the South, and this would be North, right here. So we're actually looking at this map upside down right now. Sorry guys, but the Army of the Potomac is in the South, and they're moving this direction. And what General Lee wants to do is send some troops into Gettysburg. Put a G for Gettysburg. And he wants to get any supplies he can. It said they wanted to get shoes, but there's actually no shoe factory or anything in Gettysburg, so they're probably just getting any supplies they could. So, where the Battle of Gettysburg on day one is going to take place is right here between the Southern Army and Gettysburg. And there's a little place just on the backside of Gettysburg over here called Chancellor's Hill. And this is where the leader of the Army of the Potomac wants the head of his army to set up a blockade, but they don't get the message. Instead, they set up the blockade here. This is where they choose to fight instead of Chancellor's Hill. And by the time they get the message to be here, the leader of the Army of the Potomac says it's fine to battle here. So, General Lee is blind. And when they send their first guys into Gettysburg to get supplies, they see what they think is just a small cavalry unit. And with this, when they report back, the person who sees it, they're new. And they basically think that it's a more significant unit, and it is. The problem is he's new, and General Lee and everyone else in charge, no one believes him. They think it's cavalry, because they're not expecting the Army of the Potomac to be so close. They think they have days. So they send, meanwhile, the Union troops, they make a couple weaker lines so they can fall back, and the guy from the South, he comes in and he's attacking these lines, and they're falling back slowly, but it takes them 2 hours to go 2 miles to get towards Gettysburg, and he's fed up, so he calls for a bigger attack on this line. And he's starting to realize that he was right. It's not a cavalry unit. It's a bigger force. Now, what basically happens here is the South keeps attacking. They attack the small group of men, couple thousand, 1,400, I think, maybe. And as they do, and the hours pass, he actually starts to get reinforcement troops. So as more of the Army of the Potomac arrives, as he is successfully holding the South at bay, at least enough to buy some time, and General Lee is sending in more troops. And the battle's starting to build because both sides are adding in troops. So, as more troops coming this way, troops from the north are arriving on the battlefield. And also from the north, some troops that were stationed come in to join the fight. And it's beginning to be one hell of a battle right here. In fact, it's such a violent battle that on day one, there will be more deaths in the battle than on any other day during Gettysburg. It's the bloodiest day for Gettysburg. But the South was already at Gettysburg, and they outnumbered the North, and they would eventually take the day, but not without heavy casualties. And the North would fall back, their men running through the streets of Gettysburg, where some of them would get captured because they were disorganized. They didn't have a very good retreat plan, except that they needed to get to Cemetery Hill. So, if you could imagine these soldiers in blue, it's really hot out, it's July, it's almost 100 degrees, they're wearing pure cotton all up and down their arms, they've been fighting, running, shooting, sprinting, and now they're running through the city. They're exhausted, they're dehydrated, they're climbing through windows, laying on kitchen tables, some men just collapsing and giving up in the street. They're captured. But a lot make it to Cemetery Hill, which is their retreat, where they were supposed to be in the first place. The high ground. Now, the South has a choice. And that choice is given to Richard Ewell. And the thing about Richard Ewell is, he's a man named Stonewall Jackson's replacement. And Stonewall Jackson was General Lee's right-hand man. And in Chancellorsville, General Lee's last victory, Stonewall Jackson is shot and killed. And this leaves General Lee a bit distraught and with all new men in command of his troops. Now, this Richard Ewell is going to take the place of Stonewall Jackson when he's given the order to attack Cemetery Hill if it's possible. And what that is General Lee he didn't give a straight order. So he wanted his man in the field to be able to make the decision for himself. And Ewell, being the new guy, is going to look at this order and he's going to ponder. And he's going to watch the Union forces and he's going to see they have cannons on Cemetery Hill. And he's going to take this order and he's going to decide they can't take the hill. And he has troops that he can't use, about 7,000. And he's going to decide that because he can't use those troops, he only has his direct forces. He can't take the hill. And he's not going to pursue the Union. And that would end the battling for that day. The South at this time has taken the most casualties, but they have won the battle. Day one of Gettysburg goes to the South. Day one, the North has retreated. But the South won through sheer numbers. They made a lot of mistakes during the day. And the North, being outnumbered, basically, even though they lost, they did their job and they slowed the South down enough so that the Army of the Potomac could arrive. And this sets up for days 2 and 3 of Gettysburg, where the North would eventually win, because on day 1, they won the higher ground when they retreated, and they weren't kicked off in the end by that one decision by Ewell not to chase them up Cemetery Hill. So for the rest of Gettysburg, the South would be fighting an uphill battle, and the North would be on the high ground, trenched in, fighting a defensive war. And it would eventually cost the South dearly. And they would turn and flee Gettysburg back to the South, never to return to the North again. And that is the importance of July 1st, 1863, the bloodiest day at Gettysburg. And at the time, one of the bloodiest days in American history. Other than Antietam. That's a story for another day. Alright, guys. If you want to know a better detailed story than I've done here, I will attach a video in the description, and that won't be an ASMR video, but I know a nice video of a guide the video will take you around the actual battlefield in Pennsylvania, and he'll explain everything that happened in more detail. But this was just a rough overview, pretty much off the top of my head, of a really interesting story. Alright, I guess that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you later.